on Facebook and somebody said, will you share that? And I was like, oh yeah. So we had my granddaughters help us take it apart.
The ones we've done, Caitlin, my wife, she bought a puzzle saver on Amazon that you can roll it up, put up, because our dogs would destroy it if we didn't. And then the ones we've finished, she'll usually Mod Podge and frame them.
We thought about that, and I was like, where would we put it? We're at that phase of life where we're downsizing. So.
Don't want a bunch of framed puzzles around your house.
Yeah, and no, we've only done a couple. We don't have too many.
Well, the light is red, so.
So I think we're live, or being recorded anyway. So Lisa is, she had a meeting in Little Rock to be at today, so she asked if I would run the meeting. So we will call this meeting to order. Looks like we have Miss Mel here. Mr. Reed is here. Mr. Cox is here. And myself. The minutes from the December 14th meeting. Does anybody have any changes or corrections?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Oh, before we go forward, let me mention we've got Cody Arnold here. Cody volunteered to do the minutes for us at the meeting, so thank you, Cody. So we have a motion from Ms. Mel. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Cox to approve the minutes from the December meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None there. Typically we would have Pat Moon with us, but he's under the weather today, so we won't have him. He did send us the balance of our investments. And it actually looks like we had a decent quarter.
It's inching back up.
Looks like we're up about 6% since the end of September. So our valuation at the end of the year was $13,677,624.90. So we were hovered around that 15 million mark for a good while. I don't like seeing 13 million versus 15, but still and this year, depending on what day and what news channel you watch, there's, potential recessions coming. And so I'm just thankful we've got what we do have.
Yep.
Really coming into this. Our next item on the agenda is refunds. We have 4 terminations and requests of refunds it's a big total. It's $52,420.85.
And cash looks okay for that.
Cash is okay. I've got our bank balance right now is sitting around $270.
Okay.
So there's no discussion on that. I would take a motion to approve those refunds.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of the refunds say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carries 4-0. Next item on the agenda, we have one employee that has notified that they intend to retire, Mr. Ibbotson.
I'm voting no.
Are you familiar with Mr. Ibbotson? Our current Parks and Rec director, he's worked for us for a little over 12 years. He's by far surpassed age 60.
Be sure to include that in the minutes.
Oh, I'm not supposed to write that part down.
And we'll send a copy to Steve.
And so he has met the requirements to retire and is to retire a retirement date January 31st, 2023. So I would entertain a motion to approve Mr. Ibbotson's retirement.
Reluctantly.
That's going to have to be you. You're going to have to second that one.
Second. A motion from Ms. Mel, a second from Mr. Reed. Mr. Cox, I think, wants to step out. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It was soft.
Yes.
So,
Not
a happy aye.
Didn't want to vote present. Any opposed? That one carries 4-0. That's all the agenda items we have. Does anybody have any new business to discuss? I've got, Ms. Mel, you suggested maybe at the February meeting, talk about
When you present the financial statements,
a contribution.
we can make a recommendation for it.
I've got some preliminary numbers I put together just for us to go ahead and discuss it and be thinking about it.
Because will we meet before that?
Mhm.
We will, yeah,
Yes.
okay.
So like I said, we've got about 270,000 in the bank account today.
You get ready to take 50 some out.
We're getting ready to take 52 out. So for sure, I would like to see us
Mhm.
contribute some money from our operating funds over to the non-uniform fund to help with our cash flow.
I mean, with our net income, don't you think we could do, I'm just throwing out a number, at least 200,000, don't you think?
Yes,
I mean,
yeah, and
I'm just trying to think back with the presentation, how much more they were talking about each year and how
Right.
close we can get to that figure
right,
and feel comfortable.
right. So my suggestion would be, since we have participants in the plan from all operating funds, to have each fund chip in some. So some from the general fund,
So not just the general fund.
some from the street, some from sanitation, some from airport.
Mhm.
That's what I think would be the fairest approach to take. Our employees are kind of in two different pots, so to speak, when retirement goes. We've got our non-uniform, which this committee, this board oversees, and then our uniformed police and fire employees are in the state lot fee plan. The city contributes to that plan on behalf of police and fire employees about $4.5 million a year.
How much is that per person? You think?
It's 23.5% of their salary, plus lot fee charges us a flat dollar amount
Mhm.
for what they call the old plan. And so current employees on staff, it's 23.5% of their salary. And then the flat amount they charge us comes out to about 1.2 million. So we're paying 1.2 million just for what they're calling the old plan. Our city contributions to the non-uniform plan are about that. They're about 1.2 million. So we have a large disparity, which that comes up in discussions quite a bit, how much the city pays in lot fee and versus non-uniform. We can't make those two equal.
Yeah.
We can't match lot fee and put a non-uniform. For one thing, I don't think it's necessary. I think it would bring the plan pretty close to being 100% funded.
Mhm.
But like we've talked about, you don't necessarily need to be 100% funded. So, yeah, if I'd like input from everybody, you
You're
guys
saying
wanna-
trying to draw those numbers just a tiny
Right.
bit closer, but
Yeah,
And remind me, and I'm trying to remember, how much was the additional? Was it 400,000 additional a year or for the?
it was about that, but that was before this
We
year's
lost,
performance.
yeah.
And this year's performance, those numbers are
Exceeded.
pretty much
Mhm.
null and void at this point in time because we've lost quite a bit of value since the first of the year. From the fund performance perspective, it looks like our general fund in 2022 is going to grow by about 5 million. Now, that's not all, that's the total fund. So within the fund, you've got, some grant revenue receipts,
Right.
you've got some receipts from various sources. I wouldn't advocate us for sure dipping into the whole 5 million and
Mhm.
putting towards it. If we want to kind of segregate that a little bit and say, well, just what did our sales tax do, which is a very general revenue source,
Right,
looks like we're going to beat our budget by about 3.5 million there
okay.
in the general fund. So I'd like to see us, to be honest, I'd like to shoot for 1 million
That's the figure that popped out of the general fund and then a little bit out of the others.
or 1 million total. And I also went through and came up with a breakdown of how much each fund participates in the plan.
Mhm.
So the general fund enrollment and the non-uniform plan is about 57%. So a little over half of our non-uniform employees are in the general fund. So we could say whatever number we come up with, the general fund could
Could be
contribute
half up.
about half of that. And then our street fund is about 11%, sanitation about 30%, and then the airport, rounded, it's less than 1%, but rounded off, it's 1%.
It's not a big.
It's not very much at all.
Well, could you put together that illustration,
Mhm.
coming up with $1 million out of the different funds and have that ready for that February council meeting?
Sure.
Are you all comfortable with that?
I like the idea.
I mean, off the top of my head, and I haven't heard any other discussions about fund balance expenditures, I'll put it that way,
Right.
right now. So, and this is something we've talked about.
I mean, the
Yeah.
council and the mayor's office have been so good about taking care of their employees in the present, but this, I think, is taking care of the employees in the long term.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, and it's, we're doing it when we have the funds to do it. Since it's not budgeted,
Right.
an increase, this is, we kind of,
it's the
when we
appropriate,
talked about it, and even talked about it at the council, it was, we should make good while we
the
can,
appropriate times.
and this is an appropriate time.
Mm-hmm.
You save money. When you can, you put it back, so when
Mhm.
times get lean, you got it. So,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Now, 2022 was a particular bad year on paper for the street fund because we purchased the Conway Corp property.
Right.
So at the end of the year, it's going to lose about between 3 and 3.5 million.
They had they had a pretty good sized fund balance.
And they've still,
Yeah,
even after that, their fund balance is sitting around that $3 million mark, I think.
we've let a lot of money out project, with that. And
mhm,
some of the highway department stuff that, like Hark Rider, and we had to put, I guess the city, I forgot what that number was, but that.
Yeah. So going off that, if we go off what we've discussed, they're about 11%. So if we did $1 million, it'd be about 100,000 to contribute to it, which I think the street fund could
Yeah.
afford. And then about 300,000 from sanitation. And then airport, we could just leave that up to the council
Yeah,
if we want
because
to
it's-
ask them to contribute anything. They run pretty thin.
mhm.
But that's kind of where I'm leaning towards. And
I
then
like that illustration.
And then we've got a good cushion in our monthly account for the refunds. Next time Pat comes, we can ask him, his opinion.
When would be the appropriate time?
Is it a good time
Is it a good time to buy? Is
to
it-
buy, to
yeah.
put some more money into our
Mhm.
investment portfolio, or
He can put it in there and keep it in cash until the appropriate time.
and then he can just have it there ready to buy when they
Mhm.
think the good time to buy is. Yeah, I like that idea. So if that's agreeable with everybody, then we'll kind of head down that path. And then at our second February council meeting,
Right.
should
we do a committee meeting?
I was going to say, I guess we need to get the mayor's
Yeah,
opinion and blessing to actually
I
make it
could
be a
shoot-
committee meeting.
I can email him, and I'll email Bart and Felicia, you and Lisa, and just say, we'd like to, reserve that committee meeting for that last meeting in February for this discussion.
Okay. Yeah, because we'll talk.
And we can even go over all the financials at that point too, so that might save you some time during that.
Or I guess I'm actually putting us out a little too far, because we'll do, at the next council meeting, the second January meeting, we'll do December financials.
You think it's too soon to do it then?
No,
Well, they don't have a committee meeting scheduled.
by February, we'll have just some accrual number. We'll have some
Mhm.
accrual data that can be plugged in, but I don't think that's going to change the bottom line.
I can
Significantly.
text Felicia and see if it's on schedule.
Or we could do it the first February meeting, just,
Yeah, you're right. We would need January's financial statements to make a decision.
right.
Let's see. Is there a committee meeting? I can spell. Scheduled for our next council. We'll see. So if not, we'll take it. And if not, we can do it that first one in February.
Mhm. Or it could just be an agenda item. It's gonna need to be an agenda item anyway.
Yeah. Well, but I think if we have, it gives the council a chance to look over Meridian reports, and you can kind of walk through all the different. It's only a half hour now for the committee
Right.
meeting, so just a chance if anybody wanted to ask any questions,
Right.
and then it'd be an agenda item in the council meeting to vote to allocate those funds.
Mhm.
So we get a resolution, an ordinance, probably an ordinance.
Ordinance.
To do that. She hasn't answered, so when she does, I can let everybody know.
Okay.
Shoot you all an email.
All right.
Wonderful.
If there's no other business, I would take a motion to adjourn.
Do we need to put that in motion form or anything?
It's a recommendation. It probably wouldn't hurt. I'll make a motion to submit that recommendation to the full council as soon as possible.
I will second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Crickets.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Cox.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.